Everyone, and welcome to the Green Webinar, Green Wellbeing webinar. I'm John Ross from a social enterprise in Manchester called Sow the City. It was meant to be Kieran that was doing this webinar today, but he couldn't make it. It's part of a programme of work we run called Growing Manchester, which is funded by the NHS, and this is through Manchester Health and Care Commissioning. Specifically, I've got about 30 minutes to talk about green well-being. It's a subject that I've been interested in for a long time. I did a degree in psychology, and then I went on and did a master's in environmental science and management. And really, this topic is a blend of those two subject areas. I talk about green well-being. This can be defined as deriving physical and mental health benefits from nature. I'm going to talk you through some of the research that there is about these benefits. We're going to go through some Growing Manchester and Sow the City green wellbeing projects that we're involved with, and I'm going to give you some examples of ways that you can do green wellbeing or benefit from it yourself at home and also out in your local area. And of course, it's particularly important at the moment with the COVID epidemic that we sort of take advantage of that. Before we start, I want to let you know about a powerful new drug that's available. It's not a cure for COVID. It offers hope to millions. It's got all sorts of health benefits. It reduces systolic blood pressure. It improves calcium metabolism. It reduces cortisol levels. It increases parasympathetic nervous activity. It improves the immune system. It lowers levels of cancer. There's no known side effects. It can also provide you with free fruit and vegetables, new friends, and save you money on your shopping bills. And of course, it is nature. And there is a huge amount of scientific evidence that nature and nature-based activities are good for your health. The picture here is the Serengeti. Humans, or Homo erectus, were evolved 2 million years ago, and really most of our history as a species has been spent in nature. It's only been the last 100 years or so of rapid urbanization that we have started to live in cities. But really, we evolved as a species living in nature, and you can't really separate us from the planet that we evolved in. We did not evolve in obviously looking at this sort of view. And one of the first scientists that realized this was Edward O. Wilson, who's a biologist. And he said that nature is the very essence of our humanity and binds us to all other living species. So nature really is rooted in our biology. So there's lots of research, as I say, that links the benefits of nature, and just being in nature can relax us physiologically. Growing outside in nature, for example, growing food and allotment, also has the benefits of improving your diet and also reducing your body fat. Itself, for example, is a form of exercise that the NHS recommends. Lots of evidence about exposure to nature and that reducing your parasympathetic nervous activity, which it increases it, which is good for relaxation. It improves your immune system. The list goes on. And then in terms of environmental psychology research, the original piece, or one of the often cited bits of research is from Ulrich in 1984, where they looked at a hospital where people were recovering from gallbladder surgery, and they looked at hundreds of patient records. It was in a hospital in Pennsylvania in America. And those people that were looking out over a garden view recovered 1 day quicker than people that were looking out at a wall. And so what they inferred was that those nature views actually helped people recover, and I think they also required less pain relief as well. So yeah, some really interesting research, and there's been plenty of other environmental psychology research since then that's supported that initial finding. And even on a population level, this is if you look at the top point there in Scotland, across a whole neighbourhood, areas where there's more green space result in people having lower levels of stress. Green well-being split into a few different areas. Therapeutic horticulture is using plants and gardens to improve a person's health. Biodiversity conservation would be where you would get involved, maybe improving habitat. Gardening is something that we do a lot of, and that will be working with others to grow food, often in urban settings. And we support a network of around 150 or so community gardens in Greater Manchester. So if you're interested in doing that, then get in touch and we'll probably know one in your local area. I should say that a lot of them aren't really operating. There are a few, but they have very restrictive kind of rules in place about attending. So it's not somewhere that you would be socializing at the moment, obviously, but once this epidemic is over, then it would be something that you could maybe get involved in. Nature walks. So the wildlife trusts are good people to get in touch with about those, and you'd be going around observing wildlife. Care farming is using farming practices for healing. It's often people with learning disabilities often attend care farms. Nature crafts would be doing environmental art. We do quite a lot of that with kids at primary schools, and yeah, that's an option. And then the final one is ecotherapy, which is outdoor activities in nature and often run by so in a structured way by trained professionals. Growing Manchester is a project that we run that is funding this presentation, actually, and there's 100 or so community gardens that are part of that project, and a few thousand people. It's hugely diverse. We've got schools, care homes, mental health units, drug and alcohol addiction centres, and we're doing nature-based activities at all of those sites, particularly community growing, and it's really effective. Here's a gentleman from one of our projects at a homeless centre. We transformed a yard into an allotment for service users, and it's hugely beneficial as a therapy for people to, particularly for this cohort, to relax, improve their health, and of course learn how to save money as well. This is one of the other sites that we go to for Growing Manchester, and it's a secure mental health unit in North Manchester. Again, we provide therapeutic horticulture. We transformed an outdoor area that was pretty much only used for smoking in the hospital, and the service users grew vegetables. It provided a routine for them, confidence, skills, skills for life that they can use when they leave hospital. Many of the service users went on to join community gardens after they did leave hospital, and it can be really good to be outside for your circadian rhythm as well. And a lot of people that are suffering from schizophrenia often retreat back inside and get stuck inside. That means they're not getting natural daylight, and that can affect their sleep, which can be really bad for their condition. We run a lot of sessions. Actually, Emily has done most of these in the last year up in Rochdale through a project called #Thrive. And this is an ecotherapy project for young people. And it is growing, so food growing, gardening, nature activities, or nature, and also nature crafts. And it's We do weekly activities. It's especially effective for children like Poppy, here on the right-hand side, who's suffering from anxiety. The activities are really good for her to focus on, and to stop her worrying about things quite so much. And yeah, just the last one last couple from us. We've got a Prescriber plant project, which was really captured the imagination of the nation's journalists anyway. We ended up in the newspaper, and what we were doing was providing plants. The GP was referring patients to us, and we were providing gardening activities and plants for people to grow at home that were suffering from anxiety and depression. And it was really successful, certainly in terms of exposure, and quite a small project, and we're hoping to repeat that in some other GP surgeries around Manchester. If anybody out there's heard of it, it's a type of social prescription, which is quite a buzzword at the moment in the NHS. A project that I've just been working on a lot is a new green health walk at a hospital, and it's just been finished. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to open it because of the crisis, and we've provided a new walk around the hospital, which is a marked walking route for staff, visitors and patients to enjoy the hospital grounds and really connect with the nature that there is around the hospital. It's actually a really beautiful hospital site. There's mature trees. There's a couple of nature reserves alongside the hospital. There's bats. We did an ecological survey. There's bats on site, all sorts of species of birds. There's a wildflower meadow. And the idea is to get patients out of their wards into those hospital grounds. We also think that it's easier sometimes for people to talk to their family members or to staff actually, whilst they're walking around the hospital, and of course benefiting from the nature that there is around the hospital, rather than talking to people stuck in their wards. To get that going again in a few months' time. So this last section's about things that you can do yourselves at home. Even if you're stuck inside, you can have a go at growing on your windowsill. So I've got an example on the right-hand side there of growing an avocado seed, and you just get some toothpicks and pop it into the avocado seed, and you can see how it's on top of that glass there, and you wait for it to grow, and then you can repot that plant when it's around 15 centimeters high and put it in a pot with some compost. You can also grow some, if you can't get hold of seeds, which is a little bit difficult at the moment, you can get hold of seeds from, you can actually save seeds from, say, a squash. If you buy a squash, you can grow potatoes just from potatoes. You don't need to buy seed potatoes. So if you've got a garden, then you could have a go at growing. And we've done a webinar on getting to start your own veg plots, indoors or outdoors, and we'll be doing more of those in the future. It's a good time of year to be doing softwood cuttings, so you can do rosemary, sage, thyme cuttings at the moment. There's a new campaign which we've just found out about through Lancashire Wildlife Trust, a pack from the internet which will help you ID wildlife that there is in your area that you can use to that. If you're into birds, then the RSPB website has got a bird identification section. Put in bird, what colour it is, and the website identify that bird. I think there's around 400 or so species of birds that are part of that database. It's a perfect time of year to be going out and having a walk in your local park. You can go and take photos, pad, do some creative writing, so that you get the outdoor environment. This time of year, there's all sorts of insects. I've started to see butterflies, different pollinator species, bees, hoverflies. The blossoms out. So if you live in a city, then there's cherry blossom everywhere. In some ways, cities are the most attractive at this time of year, and possibly even more than being out in the countryside, because you get amazing blossom right now. And building a bug hotel, which can be really good. We've done a few of those recently at schools, but we do quite a lot of these wood rounds at schools. So you can just literally get a stick and a saw up some wood rounds, and we make key rings out of them. And I've just heard about these. I don't know if anybody else has logged onto these, but the Wildlife Trusts have these webcams with birds that are nesting at this time of year. So you can see barn owls. I think they're down in Essex, and they're just starting to nest now, and their eggs will be hatching in May, and then you'll see the fledglings. So that's a nice way to see nature from the comfort of your own home as well, when you can't go out. A few bits of further reading and resources that you might be interested in. If you're interested in the research element of what I've talked about, then the King's Fund Gardens and Health Report is a really good starting place, which collates all sorts of research from in that area. There's a few case studies that we've got. If you have a look at the Sow the City, it's the Growing Health website, and there's some interesting bits on there. As I say, the kids' activities, Garden Organic, are really good. And okay, well, thanks for watching, and I can take some questions now.
Nico was asking about whether all of this links to reduction in stress overall, i.e. Decreasing stress, decreasing cortisol levels, decreasing inflammation.
I mean, yeah, it started really with that Ulrich study, and which showed that nature would reduce stress levels, which is, I think, they're sort of measured in terms of the hormone cortisol, and yeah, that's been found just from looking out over a sort of natural environment, or even, as I say, just looking at photos actually of nature. I think Ulrich found as well. But even better, of course, is to go out into nature, and there's other studies and also activities. So I don't think I mentioned earlier on forest bathing, which is this sort of interesting research around some chemicals that trees emit. I think it's actually part of the immune system out that potentially people can absorb as they're walking through forests. So there's some.
So a few people kind of saying, giving a few ideas about apps and things that you can use to identify birdsong, or a bit more about gardening. There's always, I mean, I think it's changing all the time, where you're able to buy seeds, buy compost, and things like that. So it's just worth looking around. A few people mentioning that they've been noticing nature a bit more, different types of butterflies and birds around.
Yeah, just on that apps thing that you said, I haven't got it at the moment, but there was a bird song app that I had on my phone, which had hundreds of different types of bird song, and I started to learn them through that, and that was a really nice way to connect with nature, because I could go out and go for a walk, and the birds are always singing, but you don't always tune into them, do you? And once you know which one's which, it's quite good fun actually to sort of start to ID them based on their call. So,
yeah, complicate, and you can get yourself a pair of binoculars or something. I've paired them and a couple of little bird books. And
then on seeds, I mean, we I think the latest, Emily, because we've been ordering bits and bobs, haven't we? But Where's the best place at the moment?
Well, I think Amazon's one to go for, because you've got, if you have Amazon Prime, stuff seems to be coming pretty fast. All the small sites, Sutton's seeds are inundated. I bought some stuff from eBay and that's not arrived yet. That's been 2 or 3 weeks. So yeah, I don't know, just either some of the less visited sites or some of the bigger sites, I'd say,
Yeah,
online.
that's why before I mentioned again kind of seed saving and
Yeah.
and just trying to get seeds that way. I suppose taking cuttings as well is something that you can do, obviously, without having to really order anything.
I know that in Manchester anyway, a unicorn selling seedlings now.
Right.
So some places might start selling, we're starting to sell seedlings a little bit now and into May, and you can buy seedlings online as well, can't you?
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Whether or not they're available, I don't know.
Yeah.
So Beth asks, how are you funded, and do you have any data on return on investment for your projects? Which is a big question.
Yeah, and it's something we've been battling with for a while. And so we do a social return on investment using something called hacked wellbeing valuation, which is a bit of a technical thing. But the problem, and we've used NHS evaluation measures as well for what we do. The problem with our projects in terms of evaluation is that the impacts are so diverse that it's really hard to measure all of these different things that are happening. So for a typical project, there'd be sort of social benefits from people making friends. There would be health benefits that we've talked about a lot today. There would be economic benefits from people developing skills and saving money, and there's environmental benefits from to biodiversity, and for I don't know, even things like reduced flooding and things as well. So there's probably about 10 or 15 things that are happening all at once, and even just measuring and costing one of those things is a really complicated thing to do. So yeah, we do struggle a little bit with that return on investment.
I suppose that we get money from lots of different places, don't we? And our projects are tailored to different kind of groups. So in some cases it might be to benefit health, in others it might be to bring community together. So we have certain targets to certain projects, which we kind of outlay at the beginning, and yeah, it depends on who with and where.
Yeah, we have to sort of battle for getting that funding from various different places. But I suppose it's a sort of the good thing is that because there are so many different benefits to growing food, community growing, and green wellbeing projects, that there's all sorts of different avenues to get funding for those projects as well, because you can sell it to funders or to or any backers based on all sorts of different all sorts of different benefits.
Yeah. Okay. So Sian was just talking about how in Salford you can get social prescription for mild mental health issues for gardening at Odsal Hall.
Yeah.
That's great. I saw.
Yeah, there's similarly in Manchester there's the Be Well service, and I actually, in terms of social prescription, I think the last I heard was that every single area of the country, I think, has to have some aspect of social prescription. I think that's been That's been agreed at sort of on a national level now. So there should be something in everybody's local area, actually.
Yeah, and just
There won't always be gardening.
Yeah.
But there will be, so social prescription can be doing art activities. It could be, it could be doing cooking. It could be doing gardening. There's all sorts of different options.
Yeah. So Nico asks, any suggestions from you or the group on how to engage in nature connections socially whilst under lockdown? Zoom chats would be tricky. Yeah, well, I know that some of the that's not really a kind of I suppose it's this. There's lots of Facebook groups and things. There's some of the community gardens are still open, but they're kind of advocating for people to visit at different times, aren't they?
Yeah, there's this My Wild Garden campaign that's just started last week, so I don't know a lot about it, but it's in Greater Manchester, if you're in Greater Manchester, and there's definitely there's an element of interacting online, I think, with other people that are part of that campaign. I think people are going to be posting photos of wildlife in their garden from around Greater Manchester. There's some kind of website that kind of that people can post all of that onto, and I'm sure they can chat to other people through that as well. Might be a good option.
Yeah, a lot of the community gardens have Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups, and I've seen that kind of lots of people are on there offering advice or asking questions about what they're doing at home, or things like that. So it's kind of quite a nice way to keep in touch with people about gardening. So Natalia says, regarding shortage of seeds, she sowed seeds from fresh organic tomatoes a couple of weeks ago, and they are sprouting nicely. That's great.
Nice, yeah. So there's a little bit more complicated way that people might want to look up. You have to remove the sort of skin around the tomato seed first. You don't just sort of whip them out of the tomato and plant them in the soil. I don't know whether she did that actually or not, but I think normally you would do that because they have a little protective coating on the seeds that you have to remove first. And I've just remembered with the seeds, actually, I read that the Heritage Seed Library, which is run by Garden Organic, it has quite a lot of seeds. I think I might have seen or had an email about that, and that's all heritage seeds, so sort of old varieties of seed that have been grown, by our ancestors in this country, and they collect all of those old seeds and they have seed banks for them, and you can join the Heritage Seed Library seeds for you as long as you save some of the plants that you grow and then send them back to them as well, so that they can continue the library. Yeah.
Something more, Steph was saying a little bit more about kind of funding. Where do we find funding? Was it a challenge to secure NHS funding for green wellbeing projects? And that she noticed some groups advocating for the local authorities to ring fence public health budgets for green space rather than just funding them through parks departments.
Funding, Emily will be able to help me out with it a bit, but from the NHS, it sometimes comes from what are called CCGs, and they around the country, but some of them are really interested in getting the social enterprise, charities, the voluntary sector involved in social prescription, for example, which makes a lot of sense because we're already working with a lot of people in the community, and we are running lots of activities that people could be referred to from GPs. So, for example, we've done quite a lot in Rochdale because they're really keen on organising themselves involved. They've had funding rounds available periodically that we've been successful for. We working for the public health department place to go set up these sorts of projects. It's called Population Health now in Manchester, and it's sort of half merged with the CCG. Over in Salford, we work for the CVS, and so that's the Centre for Voluntary Services in Salford, but they're funded for CCG. So yeah, it depends on the areas, but yeah, there is the moment. Who knows after this? But yeah, the NHS was somewhere that was becoming to be more support. The sort of project, and local authorities haven't had very much money for a long time now, so that wasn't somewhere that we would access funding from. And the other place to get funding is just through grant funding through the lottery, for example, and various other grant funders. Not so much the park. I don't think we've ever had money through, say, the parks department at the local authority, which is what she was asking as well, I think.
Rosie asks, where can we find advice on how to collect / retain and plant seeds?
Seed saving.
Seed saving.
Yeah, well, saving is a sort of organic gardening technique, and so Garden Organic is probably a really good place to go to, and I suspect they probably got information on their Heritage Seed Library pages as well.
I think that's about it for questions. Next week's webinar is on food poverty mapping. So that's something that we're doing at the moment. We're actually mapping food poverty in South Manchester. So it's something that's kind of active. And we're trying to find the places where there are food deserts, the lack of access to fresh fruit and vegetables, and kind of make recommendations as to how that can be addressed. And we'll be going through a lot of the other research that's available, and that's been kind of ongoing as well, aren't we?
Yeah, it's not. I should say it's not in response to COVID. Actually, this research, it's something that we started doing. We did the north of Manchester last year, and food poverty's been an issue for a lot of people in the city for from before this crisis unfolded. So we're looking more at sort of longer term patterns of where people can't access fresh fruit and vegetables, and where they can in Manchester, and also where there's a lot of takeaways as well. So these food swamps. So yeah, we'll be having a look at lots of interest. If you like maps, then next week might be for you.
Yeah.
Very much, everybody.
Yep, thanks. And I'll send through all the links for the other webinars, so hope to see you again soon. Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye.